All right, this video is about finding the roots or the x-intercepts of an equation. And you remember that when the y value is 0, you can find the x-intercepts. It's also just solving for x, right? So it's known as finding the roots, okay? So if I were to think about how this thing was rewritten, I could think of it, hey, this is 6x squared minus 0x, could be plus or minus 0x, right? And then equal or minus 150. Minus 150 equals 0, right? So that's this equation in standard quadratic form, ax squared plus bx minus c. But they just kind of went ahead and did the first step for you and said 6x squared, they dropped the 0, equals positive 150. Okay, so how do I solve for x here? It's pretty simple, okay? Pretty simple. All right, first thing I got to do is just kind of isolate x. So the coefficient of my variable term is 6, so I need to divide both sides by 6. Right, so it's going to divide both sides by 6. I'm going to get x squared equals whatever 150 divided by 6 is. It's 25. X squared is 25. Okay, so now since I have x squared on this side, and I need to take the square root to get to x, because the opposite of squaring is square rooting. So I take the square root of that, and as I do it to one side, I must do it to the other side. Right, so square root of x squared is x equals, well, square root of 25 is 5, right? But that's not the only one. That's not the only one, right? I can have 5. If I take 5 times 5, it's 25. But I can also do 5 times negative 5 times negative 5, which is also 25. So it could be 5 or negative 5, right? Or I can just write this as plus or minus 5. Okay, so there is one example. Another example is this one right here. Okay, this one is kind of the same as writing 2x squared plus 0x minus 32 equals 0. Drop that, and they brought this over here to make it negative, right? So I'm just going to kind of keep it like this, but I'm going to bring this over here to make it positive. So 2x squared equals 16, whoops, I got ahead of myself, equals 32 equals 32. All right, now I got to divide both sides by 2. So I'll get x squared equals 16. All right, so take the square root of both sides. X equals positive 4 or negative 4. There you go, there's that one. Okay, moving on to another one. Right, so here I have 8 equals x squared plus 3. Well, this could be written as 0 equals x squared, and then that plus 3 is going to be 3 minus 8. So plus 3 minus 8 because it's negative over here. So that's going to be equal to x squared minus 5. Right, so that is the, if this was y and y is 0, I'm trying to find if that was y and y was 0, that would give me the x-intercepts, because that's the squares of this term, okay? Or the roots of that term, like the square roots of this term. Right, so I already did this, and it's going to become 5 equals x squared, so I've got to take the square root of both sides, and then, so this will be the square root, the positive or negative square root of 5 equals x, and that's it, okay? So, because I can take the negative square root of 5 or the positive square root of 5, multiply them together, and that would give me x squared. Okay, so there's that one. Okay, remember negative square root of 5 is just some number, right? It's just that number, or it's that number, one of the two. Okay, just some number. It's just more neatly written as square root of 5. Okay, one more example. I have, this one is 2 times the quantity of x squared minus 7 equals negative 6. Okay, well, let's get rid of that 2 first. Okay, I don't have to put everything on one side. I just need to solve for x. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that 2 first. And in order to get rid of the 2 in this term, this is a one-term thing, right? 2 times a binomial term, right, equals negative 6. Right, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2. right? So I'm going to get x squared minus 7 equals negative 3. Okay, now I'm going to bring that 7 to the other side. It's going to be x equals negative 3 plus 7, which is 4. So as x squared equals 4, take the square root of both sides. X is going to be equal to positive or negative 2. All right, so hopefully that, well, let's do one with a fraction. Here's one with a fraction. All right, I have 1/4 x squared equals 36. Well, if I want to get rid of that fraction, I have to multiply both sides by the reciprocal of that fraction. All right, so I'm going to multiply this side by 4/1. I'm going to multiply this side by 4/1, right? So I multiply both sides by 4, and that is going to clear my fraction. This makes it 4/4, right? 4/4, because it's 4 times 1 times 1 times 4, right? Or divided by 1 times 4, so that's going to be 1, or 4/4 x squared, which is just x squared. And then 36 times 4 is 144, equals 144. Square root of either one of those, x equals positive or minus 12. Okay, so that should be enough for you guys to chew on and figure out the rest of your problems. Have a great day.